This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. Our bottom line today has been getting you the financial advice that you need, courtesy of our very special in-studio guest, Pete the Planner. And we've had a really good chat so far with Pete about everything from tackling debt to owning a home, and we've got a lot more to come. We're going to talk more with Pete here in just a moment. But first, we want to share some quick budgeting information in our What's Trending segment. And as we near the holiday season and even New Year's resolution time, creating a budget is something that's on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And as we've learned today, there are ways that you can really cause yourself to stumble if you're not approaching your budget in the right manner. And Angie's List writer Oshia Boyd recently spotlighted a few improper practices in an article she titled Common Personal Budgeting Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. And a good budget, as she says, should be empowering, not restrictive. So knowing your expenses keeps you living within your means and offers a foundation for future financial planning. One common misstep that Oshia points out is making your budget too complicated. If it's too complicated to adhere to it, then you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. One expert advised dividing your after-tax income into three groups: savings, fixed expenses, and discretionary spending. Now, another common flub that relates to this is blind spending. And if you don't know how much you're spending, your budget is flawed right from the start. So you want to start by tracking daily, weekly, and monthly spending that takes into account things like dining out, entertainment, and other miscellaneous expenses. Also, don't get caught in the web of false budgeting. If you're paying your bills with a credit card, well, guess what? You're not really balancing your budget at all. A good budget should account for all of your spending and should not leave a whole lot of gray area. If you want more information on establishing a budget and avoiding common pitfalls, you can read Oshia's full article and a whole lot of others we have on the topic of personal finance over at angieslist.com/articles. And that is what is trending for today. And now we want to dive Scrooge McDuck style back into our conversation with Pete the Planner. And Pete, I want to talk a little bit more about your book series, Your Money Life. It released recently. We brought it up a little earlier in the show, and I want to dig into the details here. One thing that kind of struck out to me is a lot of financial books are, might be a little boring. They're not really fun to read. How important was it for you to make these not only really informational, but also entertaining?
Yeah, I struggle with the word infotainment. In fact, having said that, I'm going to have to take a break and go shower. It's a terrible word, but let's be honest. I mean, that's how people learn. Your favorite teacher in high school was someone that was interesting, not someone that only knew their stuff. And so I've just come to the conclusion that people want to be entertained. They want entertainment, Kyle. So give it to them and teach them stuff. When I speak for a living, and people come up to me and they'll say things like, I loved your show, which is absurd, right? Because it was a workshop or it was a seminar or it was something. But if you say I love your show, then I know I'm doing it right because, through osmosis, they're learning. And the book's the same way. I'm a conversational writer. I think that's why my words resonate in USA Today. It's just weird, man. I mean, I will tell you what personal finance and the two-man luge have in common, right? I mean, I just do weird stuff. And by the way, what they have in common is sometimes it just doesn't make sense. The idea that one guy's like, hey, why don't you lay down and let's go down this hill and just lay on top of me? Like, that makes no sense. Right? That's an Olympic sport. And personal finance-wise, you hear all these things where like, that doesn't even make sense, right? Kind of like the analogy itself.
Well, one thing that's interesting is, you wrote these books for, all these different decades of life, many decades of which you haven't even experienced yet. I mean, what was the biggest challenge for you in putting all this together?
So a weird fun fact, doing what I do, I oftentimes post up in a conference room of a company, and I've done that for several years. Every 15 minutes, someone comes in and they ask me whatever question. So the Ask Pete the Planner podcast came from me in the workplace. Every 15 minutes, I'm solving. It's like speed dating, right?
Yeah.
I've done 23,000 one-on-ones, 23,000. So of all ages, and I can say with confidence, I think I've probably talked to more people about their financial life than anyone else in the world. I feel confident in saying that.
Yeah.
And so there's patterns, right? I know what a 62-year-old's going through versus a 63-year-old.
Yeah.
I know what a 28-year-old's going through versus a 26-year-old. And it takes 30 seconds to a minute of someone telling me what they think their problem is, and before I truly know what it is. And by the way, in helping people, I have to understand, Kyle, what motivates you. My job's to motivate you. My job's not to tell you something you could Google.
Yeah.
Right? Like philosophize. It's a word. You could Google it. Everyone knows it's a word. Right?
As we learned earlier.
It's clearly a word. But to motivate people to do stuff is the key, not just tell them stuff.
Yeah. So I go out to the bookstore. I buy one of these books. What am I going to find when I open the cover? What's inside?
Probably things that'll change. No, it's you're going to find a section on debt, credit, investing, spending, insurance, major purchases. There's a workbook in the back that you can pull out and work along in the book. It's perforated.
Yeah.
Very special process where they put holes in things. And it's just meant to be a guide of what you're dealing with. And I want people to read it and to say, that's exactly what we're experiencing right now.
Right.
And as strange as this sounds, I'm a little bit of a chameleon where I tried to write each book in the tone and voice of someone in that generation reading it. So the 20s book is different than the 30s book, not in content, but also in tone. And the 60s book, the same, right? I mean, it's the humor changes. Mm-hmm. And it was weird. And I have to tell, I don't tell too many people this, I would change the music I was listening to as I was writing it.
Wow.
To set the tone.
Yeah.
And it matters a lot.
Yeah. I've heard that the 20s book is on fleek. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. So how many times have you said that on your show?
This is the first.
Well, let's make it the last. That was uncomfortable. Yeah. So it matters. You want to approach people in the medium in which they want to be approached. And so that's what we try to do.
Well, and talking about, for example, the 20s book, I know everybody's different. When I was in my 20s, I was probably less inclined.
You're still not in your 20s?
No, I am not. But I know I'm looking.
You look younger than I.
Thank you.
That's right.
But so I'm early 20s. Yeah. I'm not really inclined to listen to somebody's advice about what to do with my money. I don't have a lot of it anyway already, and I'm just kind of doing my own thing. Is there a certain point in life where you found most people start taking this seriously?
28.
Wow.
It was for me.
Okay.
I mean, this is what I do for a living. It's all I've ever done. And at 28, I started caring. And I find that that's the magic number. And if you have kids, it changes a little bit earlier. So with the 20s book specifically, we tried to talk about, the first chapter is about what your parents did wrong.
Okay.
Most 20-year-olds are all about hearing that. Yeah. Right? And it's not to prey on their the desire to watch their parents fail, but it's reality. Everything you learn about money, you learn from your parents. And so you've got to learn what was bad and what was good and how to change it.
Yeah. I wonder, as we mentioned, everybody's situation is different, but do you find that the same principles are going to apply to people regardless of circumstance? I mean, a lot of the advice in this book is going to meet people where they're at, even though their situation might be different from the next.
Yeah, because it's behavior-based, right? It's not math-based. And again, that's sort of the issue here is, right, people think money is about math and numbers. Couldn't be any further from the truth. It's about behavior. People don't continue to smoke because they don't know smoking is bad.
Right.
They do it because of behavior. Everyone knows the end game with smoking. We know. We can read.
Yeah.
We know. It's the same thing with personal finance. People don't do stupid stuff because they don't know. They do it because we're fallible people. I mean, it's why I eat meals that I shouldn't. Yeah. Right? Because I have behavior issues.
Well, you made the good choice with the snack today. So
I bought a bag
start.
of nuts.
Yeah.
They're delicious.
Well, I guess before we go, I want to learn a little bit more about where we can find these resources. Tell us about your site and what all there is to offer there, because you've got a lot of stuff there that is just easy to access.
Yeah. So PeteThePlanner.com. What we try to do is just, it says need help. Scroll over it, and what you find is I'm single, just graduated, divorced, have older kids, and whatever your situation is, then we try to take you down that path.
Yeah.
We don't want to fit our advice, and you've got to fit into our advice. We want to fit around sort of your life. So the podcast, find books at Barnes & Noble. Got some interesting projects coming up that will expand where you'll find us. But that's just called a tease in the biz, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's just a tease. I can't tell anyone actually anything. And USA Today every Tuesday.
Absolutely. Well, I encourage people to check out at least this Ask the Pete the Planner podcast. One, because it's real people in real situations, and you're not going to apply to every single one, but you can find at least one episode, if not more, in there where somebody's kind of talking your language.
Totally.
They're in a similar situation. It's really cool to kind of get the advice through there. So check it out, PeteThePlanner.com. That's going to do it for Peter Dunn today. And Pete, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. We really appreciate all your advice.
My pleasure.
That's going to do it for Pete the Planner, but we're not done with the show just yet. When we come back, we're going to welcome in Stacy Jordillo to talk on our Writer's Block segment. She's going to tell us if it's wise to finance your home remodel. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
Do you love a good bargain? Angie'sList.com showcases popular deals from highly rated local companies so you can save time and money on the home and health services you need most. Remodeling your kitchen? Painting your house? Cleaning your carpet? We've got a deal for that. Angie's List members even have access to exclusive discounts, up to 80%. Don't waste another day or another dollar. Start shopping now at Angie'sList.com.